The Seriti home. Thabang and Matlakala have 3 children. Matlakala works at the Soul City Clinic. Thabang is a teacher and a role model in the community. But the Seritis are not the happy family that they seem. Thabang abuses his wife emotionally and physically.
It's just that you say under pressure.
It's between you and me.
The abuse continues despite Thabang's promises to stop, and the community outside witnesses silently.
It's none of our business.
It is a turning point. She takes the big step of challenging her neighbors at a community policy forum, with her father by her side.
Unconscious.
Yes? You have a sheriff department.
Empowered by the new Domestic Violence Act, Matlakala gets a protection order against her husband. This time, he gets a shock.
She's my wife.
It is against the law, Mrs. Sarit. With Aguasol, there's one. I'm full of the case. Okay, let's go.
Now, Soul City reaches more than 80%. Soul City reaches more than 80% of South Africa's population of 45 million people. Okay, it's like twice the size of the Netherlands, or 30 times David Ede audiences. All right, imagine that, 30 times Helena Rijn aan tafel. Could you manage that? Please give a massive round of applause all the way from South Africa to our next speaker, Lebo Ramafoko.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lebo Ramafoko, and I am the Executive Director of Soul City. What is unique about us is that we are an NGO that was established in 1992 to specifically use popular media for social change. Now, Soul City started at a very unique time in the history of South Africa. It was just on the eve of democracy. Mandela had been released from jail. The ANC had been banned. And when the first television series of Soul City came on air, there had been no real stories about black people's lives on South African television. But why did we choose mass media? For us, it was important because we all know that mass media is an important factor in shaping social norms. It has wide reach, it is influential and pervasive. But in health and development in particular, it is viewed very negatively. People drink, they don't eat healthy, they consume a lot of things because they have been persuaded by the media. So for us, the question was, how do we harness this tool for positive social change? So why did we choose popular drama and not documentaries or just educational shows? So firstly, people have learned through drama for centuries. Everyone loves a good story. Everybody loves gossip. We all want to know what has happened to whom, when, and how come. But also for development, story can deal with complex issues over time. The clip that you just saw is about domestic violence, which until Soul City put it on television was a taboo subject. We see a fictional character who's a teacher, abusing the wife, and you see the story arc, and every night you tune in is she going to leave? Is she not going to leave? What is going to happen to the children? What is going to happen to the family? But also, what we have also learned is a concept called parasocial interaction. When the first series of Soul City went on air, it dealt with child abuse. And a fictional character, Sister Bettina, suspecting that a child who had come into the clinic was abused, visited the home that evening, taking the little character, a teddy bear, and telling them that they too, when they were young, did not have anybody to tell their secrets to, and they were telling the secrets to the teddy bear. You will not believe the amount of people who called the following day asking to speak to Sister Bettina because they too had a story they wanted to share. The other thing about drama is that it can give the epidemic a human face, particularly when an epidemic is new and is being feared, like HIV in the early days and Ebola. A story can evoke the kind of emotions of empathy and understanding that otherwise without a story, there is also fear. But in order to use mass media for social change, you need maximum access to potential audience in order to have maximum impact. And in that way, even when you are a social NGO, you need to have stories that can be carried on prime time. And for us, the concept that we used was the concept of edutainment. Simply put, edutainment is the art and science of dealing with complex human and social issues using popular media formats with the aim of achieving social change. So our agenda is very clear. We want to achieve social change. But what is also unique, and what we found that was a learning curve for many production companies, was that it often brings together disparate fields of practice to leverage their individual strengths for a common good. You need researchers. You need the community of the audience that you want to participate in your project. But you also need good professional production companies that must produce your story. So how do you develop impactful edutainment? Entertainment is key. Nobody goes home in the evening after a long day to be educated. People want to tune in to be entertained. So what is important is that you tell compelling, popular, good quality stories. But equally, because you've got an agenda, content is important. You need to make sure that your content is correct, you know what you are talking about, and it's credible and it's relevant. But creative tension is necessary. Before I became the executive director at Soul City, I headed the media unit. And I know of so many instances where the director, the producer, and the scriptwriter vows to never speak to the researcher when the project is over. Because they will be sitting there creating characters who will be this hero, and you'll be sitting there with the researcher shaking their head and saying, this is the amount of nonsense that I have heard in this room. And you know that when that fight happens, new creative stories are going to be created. But more importantly, and I speak to it later, is that process is key. This is not about a clever scriptwriter, producer, having an idea about telling one story and speaking a little bit with people who are affected by the issue and then going to write that story and forget about them and get an award. This is about true partnership. It's about the people whose stories you are telling being an integral part of the stories that you are creating. What was also very unique, particularly for NGOs, was creating a brand that can compete with other trusted brands for your target audience. So if you are going to tell a story that you want to appeal to young women, for an example, you need to find out what other brands are you competing with out there. And if you really want to be impactful, make sure that your brand is going to compete and most possibly beat the kind of other brands that are out there. People are not going to feel sorry for you because you are dealing with domestic violence or watch you because you are dealing with domestic violence. They are going to select you and choose you like they select any other brand. And you have to have attributes that people identify with in order to select you, not because you are educational or you are a good NGO. So over the 20 years, we've created award-winning various formats, and we've gone for a lot of formats and used them for social change. We've got an award-winning television drama that has gone on air for the past 20 years. We've got radio dramas because of language, also because of access for rural audiences in South Africa. We had our first reality community makeover show. We've had short films that we have produced with other Southern African partners, and we've got talk shows for young women. All of our shows, when they are on television, they are on prime time, and every time the Soul City drama series has been on television, it has been one of the top 3. I get worried when it's number 3, because if you really want to win at this game, you've got to produce what is as good as, if not better than, the best of what is locally available. And multimedia is preferable. We have seen from the first speakers how the world has changed, how people nowadays are not watching television. They are watching television, they are tweeting, they are commenting. Therefore, you need a lot of different touch points for the audiences that you are trying to reach. I spoke about brand earlier on. And for us, when we started with our first series in 1994, we were basically building audiences. Right now, the Soul City series going on for 20 years, we have what we call card-carrying members of Soul City. They tune in, they watch. Yes, we must remain relevant. Yes, our stories must be compelling. But because we are not a new series about HIV and another series about polio and another series, but it is the Soul City series that people have grown to love and to know. Each time we go on air, we've got our card-carrying members of the Soul City drama series already tuned to see what we produce. I spoke about process, and I cannot underline this a lot. You need a win-win equal partnership and a process that is audience and expert-centered research process. So I remember when we were doing the third series of Soul City, and we went and we were talking to our target audiences about what they were thinking about the scripts. People got the message, they loved the story, they understood the issue that we were dealing with. But one young man raised his hands and said, you know, I have one problem with Soul City. It's never winter in the story. And we thought to ourselves, okay, all right, we'll change the script. It will be winter. So, people will be dressed in winter clothes. And says, no. None of the things you have in your story would happen in winter. Let me tell you what happens in our communities in winter. And it made sense. If you lived in a neighborhood where maybe there's poor electricity, the houses are not as good, the things that you do and what happens in that community changes a lot in winter. So the feedback may have been, there is no winter. And had you taken it at face value, you would have just thought, okay, we will dress the people differently and just have a device that makes it look like winter. But in fact, that simple comment was telling you something very fundamental about the stories that you were telling and how people were going to resonate with them. So for us, when we develop Soul City, we work with key role players. We basically also, alongside equally, have our target audience research. What we have found to be almost the Soul City way, as producers tell us, is the fact that we go through a process where that information goes into what is called a message brief. So yes, we hire production companies and professional script writers who are writing award-winning shows and even some movies that have made it internationally. But from us, they get a Bible, that what we call our Bible, our message brief, that is informed by what our audiences have told us and also our experts have told us. And that is what is going to guide them. And hence the creative process the creative tension that I spoke about. And even after they have developed the series, we will pre-test it, and we never, ever go out and film anything where a script has not been written twice or 3 times. And producers never get this. But even I, as a black woman in South Africa, I am not representative of the experiences of all the black women in South Africa. Therefore, even having me in the room does not guarantee you that you are going to tell a diverse story that represents the issues that black women in South Africa are facing. Even when we test scripts, we will test with rural audiences, youth audiences, mixed group, single-sex groups, because the dynamics change. And what you are able to capture in the youth group, you are not able to capture in the older group. What you are able to capture in a mixed-sex group, you are not able to capture. And therefore, for us, process is key. Producers who have come into our process, and luckily we were hiring them, they were not asking us to contribute to their movie, have always hated us, but their stories, even if they are not Soul City stories, and their storytelling has become so much better because they have gone through this process. They have learned to internalize and really deepen their understanding of diversity by not only hiring people of color, but making them equal participants in their creative process. The reason why we write the story, for me, is captured by this quotation in our evaluation process. Limpopo is a very rural province in one of the provinces in South Africa. There's 9 of them. And this was unprompted. We asked them, are you watching Soul City? What do you think of it? And I quote, isn't that when they make or write these stories, they look at how we live as people and they take our lives and develop a story? And for me, I knew that our job was made when we got this kind of quote. There's another one I did not bring where the person says, I like Soul City because it sort of shakes you inside. And I think that summarized for me the kind of feeling that we wanted to have. So in our strategy, we've got a television primetime drama series called Soul City. We've got a radio drama series that goes in 9 African languages. But we also understand, as I said in my earlier slides, entertainment is key. So you cannot put each and every fact of the topic that you are dealing with in your story. It's impossible. So what we do is we then develop information booklets that we distribute. To date, we have printed and distributed 39 million copies of the booklet. But you know what? The power of the brand seems through everything that we do. So people are not picking up that booklet because, oh, so many people want to know about HIV and AIDS. I'm sure they do, but they are picking it because it is a Soul City booklet. The people that you are seeing on that booklet are the famous actors on the television series. So we are doing the Disney effect. I'm sure some of you here are parents. You know that there will be Finding Nemo, the Disney effect. There will be an ordinary lunchbox made in China. But what do they do when they produce Finding Nemo? A very ugly made in China plastic lunchbox. They patch Nemo there. If you are a parent, you will not go home without the Finding Nemo lunchbox, because your child will make sure you take Nemo home with you. And that is the same effect that we are using for development. I want to speak about this project because I think at the beginning we were told, what does an NGO know about television? And we proved them wrong. 80% of the South African audiences watched us. But when we did our research, we found out that many families were telling us, when Soul City is on, and in Africa there's the tradition, particularly in poorer households, people watch communally. They said, we call our children and we watch our television with them. And this story had not been researched and done and developed with young kids. So we created a television show for young children using the same model at Soul City, a fictional drama series of 4 young people who go to a school and basically meet in a park, and they basically go into different adventures, and we called it Soul Buddies. It is aimed at 8 to 14-year-olds. What happened was that it became such a popular brand with kids that they wrote into Soul City requesting to become a buddy. They all wanted to come and join the characters at some park, not realizing it's a figment of our imagination to basically go through the things. In 2002, we explored whether or not we can start a social movement of children across the country. And at the moment, we've got 6,000 Soul Buddies clubs across primary schools in South Africa with 156,000 members who are members of the Soul Buddies Club. So life imitated art, imitated life. And because of the project that these children were undertaking in their communities, we then created a reality show to show the initiatives undertaken by the Soul Buddies clubs. At the beginning of every year, they sign up, they get materials about a theme. Normally, the theme is linked with the theme that will be dealt with in the television series. They are getting ideas or suggestions about projects that they can do. When South Africa in 2008 had the unfortunate incidents of xenophobia in South Africa, we went to the Soul Buddies clubs and we asked them, what is it that you think about xenophobia? And one of the compelling stories that we did an advert on was a young boy who was an albino, who said, I come from a culture where if you are born an albino, you are killed. But fortunately, it did not happen in my community, but I was always scared. He was, at that time, the chairperson of the Soul Buddies Club, and he told his story, and he said, with the support of my friends, I am respected for my skills and not by the way that I look. And for us, we knew that this movement, inspired by a television show, was a movement that we needed to back. And they are continuing the legacy of the Soul Buddies clubs. The Soul Buddies Club events are events in the education department's calendar. Every year, we've got 9 provinces. The provinces themselves will bring the buddies together to have events for kids. Even if you are in a poor school, even if there's only 25 of you in a club, you are then able to meet together. And the different provinces compete, because at the end of the year, we hold what we call a national congress. The provinces compete to hosting the Soul Buddies Club. That is how it has become this thing in the social calendar around schools in South Africa. We have not only been successful in South Africa, the Soul City model has been duplicated. We've had short films created with partnerships across Southern Africa and Asia. We've also created these stories and shared them amongst each other, and I must say they have done well. We have worked with Oxfam Novib, basically trying to teach the methodology to various other fragile democracies around the country. And with our reality show that I did not speak about here, we have even tried to do it in Amsterdam. So in a nutshell, you can do amazing stories that are very popular for social change, and you can be diverse, not only in the audiences that you attract, but in the stories that you tell. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lebu. Very, very impressive. A couple of questions from me, then we're going to reach out to the audience. You make very clearly a very passionate argument for kind of a scientific approach to television making. I can't help but thinking, what about the production tempo of the current TV world? Would there have to be a change there? Because it's slow, it's thoughtful, it requires more work, the way you make TV.
Yeah, I think it would need to change. I think working in partnerships at the beginning, there's resistance from both parts. Mm-hmm. I think researchers and key players about, you know, find this a medium a bit flimsy. Why must we do it on television? Doesn't look serious. And television producers see themselves as very artistic and, you know, they know the medium and it must be done fast. But I think if you really want to deepen what you are doing and the kind of stories that you tell, you make a decision to basically take on the process. And I think many people are not going to be starting from scratch, because even in South Africa, we are seeing other people who are not NGOs, who are just television producers, basically taking up social issues and asking to learn from us to be able to incorporate these social issues in their stories, and they are not losing audiences. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And you mentioned you're doing one project in Amsterdam, but on the whole, most of your projects have been sold to, let's say, developing countries.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Why hasn't there been an uptake, do you think, in Europe, in the West?
Well, I think it's political. I think all development from America and from Europe, they see it, they are doing stuff for what we are called the dark continent, for Africa, for the struggling people, and often are not open and genuine about the problems and the issues that are happening in their own back doors. I was very surprised when I first started coming to Amsterdam about, you know, the Surinamese population that is here.
Yeah, they're pretty surprising.
The Ghanaian population, because that is not the image that you have in Africa. And some of the issues that they were facing, in fact, were very similar to the issues that I see being faced in South Africa and everywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. And let's go to Senstep. Oh, can you please be the next Oprah Winfrey? How about that? Are you in front of camera? Are you in front of camera?
At the moment, I do a talk show. It's like The View. I don't know if people know The View. It's hosted by 4 of us.
Yeah, 4 women.
With 4 women. That's what we do. But I think I can do better than being Oprah. I think I can be Lebo Ramaphosa, hey?
Bam! That's what we want to hear, bam! Forget Oprah, we got Lebu!
I think so.
Okay, time for one more question. How did you get on Planet Earth to begin? How do you evaluate your shows? Yeah, okay. How do you evaluate your show to see if it resonates? What's that process?
So we've got 2 kinds of evaluation. We've got process evaluation. So when the series is on air, we've got groups that are watching to give us immediate feedback. But we also commission independent research. So the Kaiser Family Foundation has basically done research on Soul City and where people get their information, their household HSRC household survey.
Yeah.
They put in questions on their household survey across the country. But we also, in our series, and it's a methodology that other people know, we put in markers in the series so that you go and test whether or not people got that. We also do competitions. You know, we do what other shows did. We basically put in competitions. It's like watch and then read your newspaper, and you will also, you know, get your answers there, and we gauge what people are saying.
Yeah.
Social media now has made it much more
process.
Immediate. It has to be constant because the world is fleeting, and you need to get the pulse of what people are saying. But we do have a number of communities where we go and we have people watching and they give us feedback.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Lebo Ramaphosa.
It's okay.